Good evening, sterile processing universe and clean freaks out there. Thank you for joining us for this special Scoop on Scope education interview. I'm Hank Balch with Beyond Clean, and of course, we're talking about the FLX conference, the Flexible Scope Conference. It's coming up on July 16th. So, if this is the first that you're hearing about this, register right now at the link that you see below. Or if you've got one of those handy dandy QR code scanners on your phone, scan that QR code up right there and check out all the sessions. It's a 7 CE approved conference that we're hosting in collaboration with CSPD. And we're going to be talking all about that organization tonight. If you're not aware of what CSPD is, what it does, and all that it contributes to the sterile processing industry, not only in the U.S., but around the globe. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking to someone very passionate about sterile processing education this evening. So hang in there with us. If you know someone that's interested in flexible scope education, this conversation is going to go on for about 20, 25 minutes probably. So send them a text message right now, forward this stream to them, and let them know that we're chatting about this conference that's coming up this Friday. Now, I want to say one more thing about the conference, maybe I guess two more things. Number one, it is going to be a live conference, so you're going to be able to ask questions and get your questions answered directly to the presenters at the conference. But in addition to that, we know a lot of folks have to work on Fridays, right? That's real life in sterile processing and in endoscopy. But all of these Beyond Clean conferences are also available on demand. So if you can't watch it live, you'll be able to catch every session on demand after the fact. So don't worry about not being able to tune in live, but you still do want to register so you get all that login information that you need to catch those sessions after the fact. Finally, we do want to give a special shout out to the conference sponsors, Agility and Northfield Medical, for believing in this vision for flexible scope, insight, and education in the industry. Now, without further ado, I want to bring our guest on this evening with us. And this is Nyla Ski Jap. Welcome to the show, Ski.
Thank you very much, Hank, and thank you for the invitation of talking about CSPD. I'm thrilled to do that. So I'll give you.
Yeah, let me kick this off here. For those of you who don't know Ski, and I actually just talked to you the first time live last week, but when we first spoke, I'll let you know that I've been aware of you from very early in my industry career when I was doing some research out there about the industry and about some studies, and I keep seeing your name pop up in these articles out there, and I always knew that you existed, but I just never had the opportunity to meet you. So thank you for giving me this great excuse to chat with you tonight.
Well, thank you, Hank. Actually, my background started in SPD when I was promoted to the infection control director at my hospital. And at that time, I asked the administration if I could possibly move SPD from materials management into infection control, and they granted me the request. So I was thrilled over that. Knowing some SPD standards that I learned when I attended the Center for Disease Control education program that they give for infection control practitioners, I did not feel I had a good understanding of the department. So I did attend an education program that was presented by Phyllis Smith, who was, my gosh, she knew everything about sterilization. She actually was in Isham for a long, long time. But I did attend that session in Seattle, Washington, and I'm so thankful that I did go to that. After attending her program, I knew I had a lot of work ahead of me to bring the SPD up to standards and still do infection control and employee health. Many changes were made in the 18 years I stayed at the hospital, and probably the most significant was getting my technicians certified, as well as providing continuing education for them every 2 weeks so that they could collect their CEs and continue to be certified. Weekly meetings were also set up with the operating room managers and the SPD supervisors to discuss issues that occurred during the week. I believe that when collaboration is used with issues, it allows people to work together as a team, which can resolve many, many issues. The OR was made aware that coming down screaming at me or my technicians just was not going to be tolerated.
Amen.
During that time, I attended yearly American Society for Hospital Central Service Professionals every year because I was learning every year. I was just absorbing information as much as I could. And as a matter of fact, in 2001, I was elected as president of the American Society, which was a wonderful experience. And my very first meeting that I ever went to was in Hartford, Connecticut. And that's where I met Nancy Tobin and started working with her group of individuals to start a certification program, which at the time was named NISHBD. And I'm sure a lot of you will remember the NISHBD name, but the NISHBD later changed to the name of CBSPD. I currently serve as a board of trustee for the certification board, and I have been involved with SPD for around 40 years now. I hate to say that because it makes me sound old. My passion for education has always been that I believed surgical instruments, endoscopes, and durable medical equipment that had a subpar in quality place our patients at risk, which should never happen to our patients. I have learned through my years that educating staff will always, always bring rewards to everyone. Quality is everyone's responsibility. All SPD must pay careful attention to all policies, correct procedures and protocols, not that's the way we've always done it protocol, and must be actively participating in the department's quality programs and always being available to a coworker who has a question about something they're just not real sure of. We can all benefit by taking a team approach to quality and discussing results that improve patient care, as well as looking forward to the work at hand. I have never, ever met in my 40 years of practice, met anyone that comes to work and wants to do a bad job. They just don't do that.
I love that that quote you made about this has to be a team effort, right? And I know you even told the story about how you learned about the industry and how you became excited and passionate about the industry through meeting other folks out there who already have that passion and already had that insight. And I know you reference, CBSPD, and obviously we need to talk a little bit about that because in this industry, I've only been in the industry for about 11 years myself. But it's funny that there's a lot of folks out there that are familiar with maybe one certification like group, but completely unaware that there's another one out there. And it runs both ways. It's not one or the other, but there's a lot of folks who are either not aware that there's multiple organizations out there, or if they are, they're not clear on what makes them different and why people choose to get certified through different ones. So can you explain a little bit to us what CSPD is? You already kind of told a little bit about the origin story, but yeah, give us an overview about who they are and what they do.
Great. CBSPD is an independent international certification board with over 33,000 certified members. The flexible endoscope reprocessor, as well as the management certifications, are now accredited by NCCA. The CBSPD maintains a board of trustees and a certificate board who work independently but with the same goal in mind: to provide quality certification exams for all sterile processing professionals, regardless of the healthcare setting. Our current certification exams that we do offer include ambulatory surgery exam, flexible endoscope exam. We also have a management exam, a technician exam, and we have had a surgical instrument exam. This exam is in the process of being discontinued, but the questions from that exam will be moved to the technician exam and increasing the number of questions from 100 to 125. This is expected to happen for our November test administration.
So I hear this a lot, this question a lot, kind of discussed online, and it runs, different ways, but often it's kind of posed that because the word international is not in your name, that the certification through CBSPD or certifications are not recognized internationally. But can you speak to that? That's not correct, right?
No, that's not correct. As a matter of fact, we have many individuals in different countries that are certified through us. And we actually have a liaison that works with the Board of Trustees as well as the certificate board that travels internationally to administer or oversee those exams. So yes, we do have exams internationally, and we have had for a long time.
And so that point that you made too, I want to highlight about the accredited certifications. That is a very important point, and I know you're very proud about that fact. Can you explain, maybe just in layman's terms, like what that means as opposed to having a certification that's not accredited?
What that means is the NCCA is an accreditation that they're very, very strict on how you administer those tests, the questions that are on the test, and how they relate to the jobs that we do. So we are very, very happy that, and very proud that we did get the NCCA accreditation, and we're working with them, and we continue to stay with them, and we're excited to work with them. They're a heck of an organization, and they're very, very competent. My gosh, the things we had to answer when we applied for that was just astronomical. So the NCCA is a huge accreditation organization, and we're very proud that we are accredited with our management exam as well as our repo exam, our flexible endoscope reprocessor exam. We're real proud of that.
There's a follow-up question on that conversation around the international recognition of the certifications. And I know it varies from country to country and even from hospital to hospital, just as it does here in the U.S. But the question came back, does that mean any country outside of the U.S. will recognize CBSPD, or just certain countries? Can you maybe add any other insight to that?
gosh, I don't have a list of the countries right now, and I don't have it in my head of the countries that are certified through that do our certification, but there's like probably 7 or 8 different countries uh, that do use us for their certification of their staff.
Hmm.
Um, and the rules are very, very strict. They're just as strict internationally as they are nationally as far as when you take the exam. They're very much monitored, so there's not any of this exchange of information at all. So it's
Right.
very, very monitored, and it's the same internationally as it is nationally.
Right. And I would imagine that has a lot to do with the countries that adhere to or follow some semblance of the AMI guidelines or recommendations, because we hear that come up a lot on the podcast that there's countries abroad that prefer to follow the AMI guidelines because it's a good statement of um, recommendation of best practice in the industry. So it's probably pretty similar, for those countries that would also look to that certification um, as a valuable option. And often the countries that have a lot of expatriates, working in them, such as the Middle East, for instance, will have a lot of folks that uh, are coming from all over the globe, but having that kind of certification would be a standardized way to measure their competency for sure.
Well, Hank, let me clarify something. With Amy, they don't have a certification.
Right.
They do provide standards, and the CBSPD, we use those standards that they have. So, but they are not a certifying body.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. Um, now you mentioned this already again, but I'm going to pull you back to the impact of education and network on careers of the technicians that you've worked with. And obviously, we're talking about a conference that's coming up on Friday that's all about education and it's all about networking. Even though it is virtual, there's a lot of emphasis on connecting users with these thought leaders out there and really like bringing this industry together around these valuable topics. And to have someone who has been in the industry for 40 years, I imagine you have seen this time and time again to how this education networking can actually change the direction of someone's career or impact how they serve their facility. So, can you give any examples from that?
I can. There has been some improvement over the years with the certifications that have become available. There is still so much that needs to be done throughout the country since education is not pushed in all of our healthcare facilities for certification of the technicians. New Jersey, and I believe Connecticut, has come along great when they mandated certification in all sterile processing departments. And I feel more states need to follow their example. As surgical procedures, instruments, and devices continue to advance, SPD possesses and equipment must evolve as well. We're not
Mm.
keeping up with it. Yesterday's decontamination, cleaning, and sterilization practices just cannot accommodate the complexity and the volume of today's surgical and medical devices. Unfortunately, what still is happening is departments are still using obsolete equipment and processes and the challenges of limited staff. As instrument and device complexity has grown, so has the challenge of getting trays out as fast as the operating room is demanding them. Keeping instrument sets as well as trays sterile and free from contamination after sterilization or even high level disinfection is a challenge most SPDs face every single day. Reprocessing instruments right the first time saves both time and labor. Every event, whether or not it impacts the patient, is important to track so that problem areas can be identified and corrected. Keeping equipment in the SPD up and running is another critical factor to maintaining high efficiency and productive levels. For hospitals struggling with financial consequences of the pandemic and efforts focused on revenue generating areas, including the operating room, might seem like a tough time for SPDs to secure resources for improvements. Poor teamwork among departments can lead to a host of problems, including surgical delays, cancellations of the case, excessive callouts, tension, and a lack of optimism leads to poor outcomes for the patient. Good communication is necessary for good teamwork between SPD and the customers that they serve. We don't only serve the operating room, we serve the ER, we serve L&D. There's a host of other areas that we may work with. A big part of improving communication is not using the blame game. I hate the blame game. It's SPD's fault every time. And the blame game doesn't get us anywhere. If you are not currently working with others, you're missing out on some big opportunities for growth and success. Even more importantly, you may not be doing your best to protect the patients who are coming to your facility. I have seen where sometimes there's an impression that the infection control practitioners in the facility are only there to look over the SPD technician's shoulders to ensure they are following documented standards. However, I can tell you for sure, infection control practitioners are eager to learn as much as they can from those in SPD. A real advantage with working with the infection control practitioner can help ensure SPD has the tools and the resources needed to work safely, efficiently, and in accordance with standards. In my experience, many of the facilities I have been consulted for have never even seen or talked to their infection control practitioner, much less they don't even know their name. SPD professionals should ask their ICP to come and work with or observe in the department for a day or two. Most will be eager to learn and will serve as another set of eyes on your practices that might even shed light on some process improvement opportunities. Accreditation organizations will look to ICP to ensure they have a full understanding of the facility's sterilization practices. Educating hospital leaders on the critical link between effective and efficient SPD operations and successful surgical procedures can help pave the way for investments in the department. The hospital administrator will likely not know the needs and the challenges that face SPD, including insufficient staffing, limited instrumentation, old or outdated equipment that can no longer meet the needs of the department. This is the reason it is essential that managers in SPD communicate clearly with those at the administrative level and let them know what you're doing and let them know about the equipment shortages, staff shortages that you do have. The more they know, the better they can help you, and the more they will recognize the value of what takes place in the department. Healthcare leadership is constantly challenged to improve workflows, eliminate waste, and reduce cost, as well as, this one really gets me, improve efficiency. If you don't have the equipment or the staffing, you're not going to be efficient. So they need to know that so that your department can be brought up to a standard that you can really be proud of.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about those infection control preventionists and practitioners. And this is a great conference opportunity to bring those folks into the fold if they've never engaged with your team or your team has not engaged with them. Tomorrow morning, go down the hallway, knock on their door, and say, "Hey, what are you doing Friday? Because you should join a few of us in this conference so that we can talk together and collaborate and learn together to see what are we missing." Because you're absolutely right. If you get an IP on your side, you can go a lot further. You can have a lot more of those important conversations with the C-suite than you can many times all by yourself. So yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up. And I want to kind of follow up on that, maybe on the specific focus of this conference on this flexible scope reprocessing. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big fan of general conferences to go and hear about all kinds of things and be exposed to all different aspects of the industry. But I'm also a big fan of specific conferences that really help you drill down on a single topic and go deep and learn about those questions that are beneath the surface, right? Because if it can be easy to learn the same thing again and again and again about a topic, but never be able to go beyond that. And it's don't say that's bad. It's always good to be reminded of the basics, right? But in growing your career, at some point you have to go beyond the basics. And so, in your perspective, why is this kind of specific targeted education so valuable to the industry?
Hank, I believe that with the widely publicized reports in the media of breaches in cleaning procedures, which have placed thousands of patients at risk, coupled with professional standards and recommendations, cleaning verification has become the standard practice. There are today various quality assurance tests now available for testing medical devices for cleaning efficiency. The goal of reprocessing is to remove all debris and bioburden from the instrument so sterilization of all surfaces can occur. It's not okay, and I have heard in my career where I'll go into a department and they'll say, "Well, why does it have to be clean? We're going to put it in the sterilizer and it's going to cook it." But they've got to understand steam does not penetrate protein. That's the reason you have to have it clean. The goal of reprocessing has got to be to remove all of the debris and bioburden. Improper processing of endoscopes has been associated with several multi-patient infection outbreaks. That breaks my heart. That's why a team of researchers from the FDA Center for Devices and Radiological Health and Healthmark Industries recently developed a new technique for visualizing where contamination may reside in a medical device even after it's been cleaned. The technique outlines a simple 4-step protocol for a stain test that detects bacteria on endoscopes as well as the endoscope parts. The procedure allows for concentrations of bacteria remaining on a clean device to glow brightly and just fluoresce so that they can see where that contamination has occurred on that device. And I think that's going to be so helpful to manufacturers that need to be working to develop easier cleaning parts because it's terrific. The associated skills needed for cleaning, inspection, and sterilization of these complex instruments is much higher compared to the skills that are needed for non-complex instruments. With the hundreds of hospital and vendor-owned instrument sets being processed on a daily basis, the importance of a highly productive and effective, educated and certified SPD staff is as important to the success of the surgical procedure as the physician. New staff come with training needs placing more stress on the existing staff. SPD shortages related to the pandemic has forced many departments to hire new and inexperienced technicians, which puts greater strain on department efficiency. I believe manufacturers must work with end users to design scopes that meet all the guidelines to allow for cleaning and sterilization. I also believe that certification of all SPD staff should be mandated, and all new staff should never be assigned to clean endoscopes until they have completed a training program. The bottom line is that infections caused from dirty scopes should not continue to happen. Our patients are counting on a successful surgery, and I believe it is in our power to deliver that to our patients.
Yeah, what I would add to that and to that theme, you said it perfectly, that it's education that drives the quality of our processing. And without that, if it's a new technician off the street or if it's a experienced technician who has not been properly educated, either way, that can lead to disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And just last week, like I was speaking to someone about the need to create a pipeline of trained technicians to hire from for exactly that point that you said. Like, a lot of these departments are experiencing a staffing crisis,
Yeah.
and it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And everyone's looking around and saying, where are the trained, experienced technicians for us to hire?
Yeah.
And oftentimes the answer is they're not out there at all.
That's right.
So unless you get a partnership together with a local training school or create one internally in your facility, and you have to develop some kind of on-the-job training process that it requires competency before you throw those technicians in an area where they could cause patient harm. So yeah, you're absolutely correct, and I just wanted to highlight that again. As we kind of wrap this up a little bit, I want to give folks who are curious to learn more about the CBSPD an opportunity to track y'all down and look you up. So where can folks go to learn more about the organization and what you do for the industry?
For more information about the CBSPD, go to our website at www.cbspd.net. To volunteer for one or more of the CBSPD committees, which would be the exam committee, the CEU committee, or our ethics committee, please mail inquiries to mailbox@sterileprocessing.org and indicate what committee you are interested in. We love our volunteers, and we welcome you to CBSPD.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Ski, and for sharing your passion and your insight on the industry. I know there's going to be a lot of folks who are encouraged to continue the good fight. We say Beyond Clean that we fight dirty, and we mean it, but it is a fight. It's not easy out there to advocate for the patient, to advocate for best practice, and honestly, just to educate yourself. It's hard to find time during the day or on nights and weekends, to take that extra step and get that other credential or get that other certification or get that other research done. And I think just hearing your story and your 40 years of passion and faithfulness, that's going to make a mark tonight. So thank you again for joining us.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, Hank. And I look forward to the rest of our program, and I'll certainly get registered and watch it.
All right. So everyone else watching, if you're not registered yet, the link at the bottom of the screen is you see educate.beyondclean.net/FLX 2021 is your registration link, or you can click on that QR code that's over that way at the top corner. You can scan that QR code with your phone, and that'll take you right to the registration link. And then if you hold on just a moment, I'm going to close out the show with another graphic that has a bigger QR code and the address for you to click. So thanks again for tuning in tonight. We hope to see you this Friday, July 16th at FLX 2021. Come and bring your friends and bring your IP, and let's learn. All right.
Great.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.